Hey there! Is today your first time here? Or maybe your first time in a while? If so, maybe you're wondering exactly who we are and what this church is all about. Well, we'd like you to know that we're a group of ordinary people who are on an amazing journey together, following Christ. Our guide is the Bible because it's the divinely inspired Word of God, and it will never take us in the wrong direction. Along the way, we hope you'll see that we are welcoming and spiritually passionate, and that getting to know you is a big deal to us. We know that the road is rough sometimes, but we'll work really hard to bring you practical and relevant messages to equip and encourage you through life's ups and downs. We want you to know that we care about this community, and we believe that it's our job to make it a better place. So no matter who you are or where you've been, we're glad you're here with us today, and we hope that you'll join us on our journey, following Christ and living out His plan for us. So welcome to church.
You have to say it louder so you can hear what you just said.
What did he say?
We're gonna have a song service
Just
first.
jump into song service.
So we're gonna go right into presentation.
And then you're gonna come up through the Devo. That'll be fun. Okay, so Miss Rita, you are right now.
No.
Yes, ma'am.
Song service right now.
We are doing something. We started.
Well, don't call on me right this minute.
Okay, fine. We'll do a
You want
couple.
me to do my devotion?
Because I'm
No,
waiting,
no.
I'm waiting for people to come in. They're still in the kitchen.
So, we're going to start with 307.
307.
Tell Jesus. Jump over to 315. Bringing it cheap.
Sowing in the morning, sowing seeds of kindness, showing in the
Now we're going to do 361, higher ground. So then, just to get this right, Miss Sarah's going to come up right after this. Do her deal.
Right. So I'm going to give the devotional basically leading up to our presentation about El Salvador, so it has to do with El Salvador. So I'm going to start out with 2 Timothy chapter 4. I charge thee therefore before God and the Lord Jesus Christ, who shall judge the quick and the dead at his appearing and his kingdom. Preach the word, be instant in season, out of season. Reprove, rebuke, exhort with all longsuffering and doctrine. For the time will come when they will not endure, but after their own lusts shall they heap to themselves teachers having itching ears. And they shall turn away their ears from the truth, and shall be turned unto fables. But watch thou in all things, endure afflictions, do the work of an evangelist, make full proof of thy ministry. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the idea of being, like it says, be instant in season and out of season, okay? When we go on a mission trip, there is a lot of things going on. And while you're there, it's important that you're ready all the time. So the next verse I'm going to read is always ready, about being always ready to give an answer. So 1 Peter 3, 15 and 16. But sanctify the Lord God in your hearts, and be ready always to give an answer to every man that asketh you a reason of the hope that is in you, with meekness and fear, having a good conscience, that whereas they speak evil of you as of evildoers, they may be ashamed that falsely accuse your good conversation in Christ. All right, so both the being instant in season and out of season, and being ready always to give an answer. Okay, so I saw this worked out a lot during our trip to El Salvador. So in the beginning of our trip, we took time to go out into the neighborhood and invite people to come to the Vacation Bible School. And so later I'll have some slides of that. But we were going, and we had to be ready whatever question they might ask us, because maybe we're just handing a flyer and we're not saying anything, but maybe they're going to ask us what it is. Or maybe we're telling them, hey, this is a Vacation Bible School, it's for all ages, you can come. And maybe they're going to ask more about that. We had to be ready, all 25 of us, or however many of us there were that went out into the neighborhood, had to be ready to give that answer. And that's the same that goes for here. Maybe we're not giving them a flyer for Vacation Bible School, but maybe they're going to have a question for us. And are we really ready to answer that question? Sure, when we were going out to pass out flyers, we are in that mindset 100%, because that's all we're doing right now. So I'm ready to answer whatever they ask me. But what about the rest of the time? What about when we were at the hotel? What about when we were just riding in the bus? And hey, one of us asked a different one of us a question, something that had to do with our walk with the Lord or our testimony. Were we ready for that question? And then that also translates into life, our everyday life. Are we ready to give those answers when people might ask us those questions? And so I'm going to talk about Brother Julio, who we went with to go to El Salvador. He is always ready. He is instant in season and out. He is always ready to give an answer. One evening we had gotten back, we had prepped stuff, and most of us had all then gone to bed, and there was a gentleman that worked at the front counter of the hotel that we had known from other times, because we always stay at that same hotel. And this gentleman was talking to Brother Julio's son, Joshua, and Joshua could just kind of tell that, this guy just kind of kept talking to him and was a little bit sad because it was Friday and he didn't work again till Monday and we were going to be gone by then. So kind of saying goodbye and stuff. And Joshua just kind of got the impression, maybe this guy wants to talk more. So he brought his dad over. And so Brother Julio and this gentleman ended up talking until basically 1 a.m. Just this person that worked at the front desk could tell, there's something different, there's something about these people. I don't know what it is, but I just have this feeling like I can't just say goodbye and let you guys go. And Brother Julio ended up leading him to the Lord at like 12:45 in the morning. So also that night, after most of us had gone to bed, some were still awake or some were awakened by an earthquake. So it was the second earthquake we had while we were there. This one was like a 6.1, I think, so pretty decent earthquake. I slept through it. But some felt it. And so there was also a lady that was staying at this hotel that actually, she's originally from El Salvador, but she's currently living in Los Angeles. And she came running down the stairs screaming because she was scared of this earthquake that just happened. So that was about 11:45. So at this point, Brother Julio's down there with the gentleman from the front desk talking, and this lady comes screaming down the stairs because she's scared, doesn't know what's going on. And she ends up sitting kind of behind them in the lobby area. And Brother Julio said he knew she was there, and she was by herself, so he kind of got the impression, she was maybe just listening to what they were talking about to kind of calm down and stuff. And so after Brother Julio was done talking with the gentleman from the front desk, this lady was like, hey, can I talk to you, now? And so, we're nearing 1 a.m, and we get up and we have to be down to breakfast at 7:30, 8 o'clock every day. We've been staying up late. We're tired, but does that matter to Brother Julio? No, he is ready. He is there, ready to give an answer to any questions. And so she started talking to him and just about her fear of the earthquake and stuff and different things, and about her life, and that she had seen all of us. We have matching t-shirts that we wear on 1 or 2 of the days, so she had seen our group, so she wasn't really sure what was going on. When we had breakfast in the morning, we would sit and we would have a devotional, and so the other people that are at the hotel are kind of wandering around at the same time, so she had noticed these things. And the lady was like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna think about these things or whatever. And Brother Julio said, okay, but keep in mind, we just had an earthquake. Maybe the next one's gonna be bigger. Maybe you're not gonna survive the next earthquake. And this lady, it brought it all back for her, and she just kept talking. And so around 2 a.m, Brother Julio led this woman to the Lord. And so not only was he he was ready to talk to them, he was ready to give an answer to their questions, but at breakfast the next morning, I noticed he had like some paper folded, and it had some stuff jotted, and he just seemed a little, antsy a little bit. I didn't know, what was going on, why he had some papers folded up and stuff. And so we ended up having the devotional, and then he was like, I have something to share. And so he pulls out his paper, and he tells us the story, because none of us knew, because we were all sleeping. We were all tired. Brother Julio, obviously also very tired, because he takes the weight of the whole trip and the team on himself. And he was so excited to tell us those stories. He had written down their names, so he was sharing their names with us. So he was also ready to tell us. It didn't just stop with being ready to give an answer to these people that had come and asked him some questions, but he was ready to tell us before we even asked the questions. He was ready to share with us what had happened, not boasting of himself at all, but just talking about the opportunities that God literally placed right there. And we look at the earthquake, and you can say, well, the earthquake, that's generally not a good thing. An earthquake, it can cause damage, it frightens people. But in this sense, that is literally what brought this woman to the Lord, was an earthquake. She would have slept through the night otherwise, likely, and, she heard about God, and maybe later that seed would have been sown, but that earthquake presented the opportunity for that time in the middle of the night. And I'm not saying, okay, so we all need to be ready to stay up till 2 a.m. and be ready to lead somebody to the Lord. Yes, sure, but it's more of a general mindset, and Brother Julio is a great example of that it doesn't matter when or where or who, we ought to always be ready to give that answer. Do we have to carry this around all the time to give that answer? No. But can we just share what God has done? Can we just listen to someone's genuine question, take a moment and just answer their question the way that if we let God lead us in answering that question? And so that is the devotional. And that's just one part of the trip. I'll talk about more, but that I felt was really, really obviously lived out on this trip. Now, what are we doing? Am I keep going, or is it Sydney's turn? All right. So Sydney's going to give her presentation. She got to give it twice at school to different age groups, but she's going to give her presentation, and then I'll come back and do the rest of it. Yeah, sorry. Oh, yeah.
Next. There we go. Can I have a laser pointer?
Yeah, we do. Oh, we have a pointer, you can make circles on the screen.
So this is a picture of most of the people who are on the team. I think that some of them are cut out on the side.
gotta face this way.
Yeah,
Talk
but
to the
I
camera. Look at the picture there. And talk into the mic.
I can't see you.
But you have to face forward to talk or they can't hear.
Okay.
Oh, here, let me get you to go like this.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
She would point at the wall. And she can't point at the screen. No, you use it.
Wires like that.
Yeah, I'll just make sure that.
Hello? Okay, so then the picture to your picture of the van is that's the van that we took with us everywhere. There, I don't know how many seats there were, but that's what we drove everywhere. 25. That's a lot of. I didn't know it was that big. And then the other picture is a picture of the Casa Comunal. It's like a community center almost. There were 2 sets of bleachers, a stage, a pavilion. There were 2 little buildings and a big dirt area. The gentleman in the wheelchair, his name is Brother Freddie. He's like the missionary there. And Brother Julio is the one holding the bag of the flyers that we're about to go pass out. Next. And then we went to go pass out flyers in the area. The one picture right there is of Caleb giving a flyer to a woman through the door. And then on the other side, it's Joe and his son Roy. Next. This is me passing out flyers to the various people. That's it. That statue right there is, I don't quite remember what the guy's name was, but I think he helped to liberate El Salvador. And that's the National Palace right there that the president visits every once in a while. Next. That's the palace with the sign out front. Next. And then we got to go to the library, and we got to see a concert. It was like a tribute to the Beatles. It's a 7-story library. Next. And then these are various pictures of the inside. They had different areas for different age groups. They had comics, they had video games, they had Legos, they had a lot. They even had books for Braille. They had books, a lot of books. Next. And then there was a Star Wars area. Next. And they also had The Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, Harry Potter on the teen level, I guess. And then, yeah, next. That's fine. This is what it looks like. There's the 2 bleachers, and that puppet right there, his name is Egyor. He was Missy's puppet. Huh? Above Moses? Can you see him? He's like a monkey thing. Oh, yeah, I guess he is small. And then we had a poster for every day that the kids from Ohio had made. Next. This is registration. We got names and age groups and put them into 4 different classes: 4 to 6, 7 to 10, 11 to 16, and 17 plus. This is Andrew. The guy in the middle is, what's his name again? Kelly and, Mike and Kelly. And then Joshua and, yeah, Jocelyn. Next. And then there's Ricardo. He was our clown. He's a professional clown. And then there was the little kids area that was under 3. That day it was Charlie. Charlie's the one doing the parachute, and Genowick, who's on the floor on her hands and knees. Next. And then Brother Freddie taught 11 to 16, right? Yeah. And then that's him teaching his class. And then there's another gentleman who taught the 17 plus working on their craft. They spent a lot of time on their crafts. They probably tried harder than most of the kids did. And then there's the passing out snacks at the end of the day in the middle. Kind of chaotic. And then there's the games. The lady in the striped dress, every time one of the other adults would put their toe over the line, she would go over and draw it darker and tell them all to move back because they were putting their toe over the line. And then we did skits every day too. That one's Paul and Silas. Next. And then the picture up in the corner is we had to make like 300 salvation bracelets for the last day. So we made those the night before. And then that's us waiting to leave in the morning. Next. That's me doing the little kids with Donna. It was Donna, yeah. Donna on the last day. There were 20 of them. There were a lot of little kids. Next. And then when we went to the mall one of the nights, the van wouldn't start, so we had to wait for a truck to come by to jumpstart the battery. And then we got a bunch of different piñatas for the VBS on the last day. It was crazy. All of us had to stand in a circle to hold all the kids back. And every time like one piece of candy would come out, they would all break free and fight over it. It was crazy. And then on the last day, there were like 260 people that we had registered. More people were probably there though, plus all the people on the team. But Brother Julio wanted to give everybody a certificate with their name on it. So we had to pass out all of those, and then we had to pass out the snack for everybody, and then we had to pass out all the backpacks with the school supplies in them. So it was dark outside by the time we were done. We all had the flashlights out trying to make sure that nobody was still in there. That's the Caleb with the Samson banner that they had colored because Caleb got sick one day and he didn't come, and then who else got sick? You got sick. Samuel got sick too. And Joe got sick. Everybody took turns. And this, yeah. And then this was the second church, the main auditorium. We only were in there for the first day though because it was really warm. Next. This is what it looks like from the outside. That building with the cylinder on top is the bathroom. Up the stairs is the bathroom. And then on the other side, that's the auditorium on the second level. And on the bottom, we had little kids on one side and memory verse on the other. The picture in the middle is a picture of the memory verse area.
Yeah, I'll just add to that picture. When the medical team went there a year and a half ago, none of that was there. Those stairs were not there, and neither was that building on the right-hand side. Those have all been improvements for within the last year and a half. Yeah, the builders went and helped them. They have an architect in their church, so he knows how to draw all this stuff and make it code. Good.
Next. That's the little kids area that they had. Thankfully, they had like foam squares that they got to put on the floor so none of the kids like hit their head on the concrete. And that was the stage with the Noah's Ark in the background. Next. That's how we did the main assembly the last 2 days with, I think that's Ricardo in the front doing the skit, I think. We also had face painting. That's Janella getting her face painted by Donna. And that's Andrew doing the memory verse. Next. Oh, they're stacked. Yeah. Did you take the last slide out? Okay, so you're not going to be able to see everybody on the last slide. Okay. So that picture, under all the rest of them in the corner, it was a lady selling tortillas for 4 for 25 cents. So we got 16 for $1. And then basically what Brother Julio said is a lot of the people came to the first VBS because they like felt forgotten, I guess. And then I think we had about 50 people on average to the second VBS because we were in the city. And that's Caleb, Andrew, and I passing out flyers. That's the one behind that picture is a picture of one of the houses at the first place. And then that picture right there with all the people in it, not the one up there, the one down there. It's like a picture of like the auto place, but if you go down that alley, the church is at the very end. So it was a little bit of a nightmare trying to get the van in there because the road was really narrow and then we had to turn in and it was steep at the bottom, so it was very scary. Very scary. Next.
So they have a lot of cars in there, so that was the problem.
Okay, so the pictures that are underneath the rest of them are a picture of me and Derek, the little boy, coloring, because I don't know exactly why, but my mom handed him to me on the first day to color with. So I colored with him and did stickers with him, and then the second day he fell asleep with me, and then sat with me until his mom came. So that was really sweet. Next.
Sydney took some of those little guys, and she stayed with them all day, and it allowed their mom freedom to go be part of the VBS. And so that was really cool.
This is one of the adults getting their picture taken with their crown. They were very proud of their crowns. And then this is the piñata. That lady hitting it is the great-grandma of one of the kids who was there. And I believe she's the one, she was a Catholic, and she got saved? Yeah. Next. And then we went to a restaurant. These two girls sitting next to me, Valentina's the little one, and Alexandra is the one between us. So I was doing my homework while they did their homework. And then we played games. We played tic-tac-toe. Equicero. And then we went to like a water show where they sprayed water, and then on the other side there was a projector that was projecting all these different pictures. There were Minions, Mario. It wasn't very long, but it was really cool. Park, sort of. There was like a big statue of Jesus on top of the world or something. Next. This is Valentina that I'm holding, and then I helped Alexandra with her homework a couple days. This day we were doing history, and the history that they had there is the same exact history that we have at our school. So they were doing American history, which I thought was unique because they're in El Salvador. But her dad said, Ricardo said that they have their classes in English. That's Valentina again. And then we had like these, they're almost like Otter Pops, but they're just flavored ice, sort of. Next. And then that's the little kids with Renee in the corner and Gloria. And then we did the Samson skit where Joe, he used to be a strongman, or a bodybuilder. So he was our strongman for Samson, and he did an arm wrestling contest with Ricardo. And Ricardo hung on to his arm with his entire body, and Joe still pulled him over one-armed. Next. And then we went souvenir shopping. There was a lot of stuff to look at. Next. Then we got to go to a volcano, and they had these trees that we could climb in. So there's Valentina and I in a tree. I think Alexandra's like behind me or something. Next. And then we got to go on like a ferry ride. So I'm sitting with the girls, Alexandra and Valentina, they were playing with me. Next. And in theory, this was supposed to click through so you could see everybody, but you can't. There was a picture of each respective family. So in the corner is Gloria, and then she was sitting next to Donna and Missy. And then there's Caleb, who was Renee and Andrew's kid. And then there were 2 Kellys and 2 Mikes, and both Kellys were married to Mikes. So one Kelly and Mike had Charlie and Samuel, and the other Kelly and Mike had Noah. And then there were us 3. And then there were Joe, Genowick, Roy, and Janella. Everybody else was from Ohio, I think. Yeah. And that's it.
It's just too hard. It's too difficult to get around. It's too difficult to feed everybody. It's too difficult. This is kind of the same team we took to the medical trip October 2022. And so we kind of knew how they would be. And some of the nurses came with us. But Joe, the one guy that Sydney had talked about, he used to be a professional bodybuilder. And after he found the Lord, almost the day after he found the Lord, within I don't know how long, he quit. He got out of the business. And he was sharing a bit about the business with us and how it's not good behind the scenes. A lot of drugs, a lot of stuff behind the scenes. He owned a gym and he got out of it real quick. But what I wanted to say is that several of the people during the week had shared with Sarah and I. They didn't realize how impactful missions are. And they said, we've heard about missions and we've heard about mission trips, but it was just something we heard about and something we supported. He goes, but this was a whole different level. So going on these trips is important. It shows people. It's different. I say it. You have to go on one to see what it's like. And Joe came back and Joe's kind of a nut, and this is his wife's second one. And Joe almost didn't go. He said he wasn't going to go. He didn't want to go. He was against it and all that. And I don't remember why he ended up going, but he came back changed.
Because of his kids. He didn't want to miss the time with his kids.
And their kids were with him. And so it was nice to hear that going on these trips impacts people. It actually changes lives. And Joe was really impressed about nothing I did, nothing Sarah did. He was just impressed with what it was like. And so that this church supports and sponsors this ministry is a big thing. It's changing lives, and I just want you to know that. We are part of it. We are a local church with a global impact, and we need to remember that.
We joked that we were going to do a slideshow presentation of just him during the trip, and that's what we were going to present to you, and that it was just Joe in El Salvador. That way, if he watched it, it would just be all about him and stuff. So, because in the van, he was the trash panda, and he had a box, and we would all pass our trash to him. He was also the food czar, because he had all the snacks next to him, so if anybody ever needed snacks, he would pass out snacks, and I can't remember what else he became. I don't remember. Anyways, he did a lot of different jobs that we attributed to him. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is just show you the VBS lessons that we chose to do. Brother Julio wanted, I think I already told you guys this, but I'll tell you again. Brother Julio wanted 6 different lessons. We were going to do 3 days at one place, 3 days at the other place. So usually what we do is we do these 3 stories, and then we repeat those 3 stories. But he wanted to do all different stories. That way anybody that came to both, including the people from the churches that were helping, that they would hear more Bible lessons, that they would learn more. So I thought that was really neat that he did it that way. So we did Samson was one of the days. We did Daniel as one of the days. We did Noah. We did Paul, and we did Moses, and we did Esther. And so Sydney had some of those canvas pictures in some of her slides. And what I want to point out about this is we always talk about, oh, everybody has a part in the mission trips. And I don't know if you guys get tired of hearing that or not, but there are so many pieces to these mission trips. There's the church behind the missionary that gets sent out. There's the church behind ones of us that go. There's the church behind the people in Ohio that went. These drawings, some of the other kids that go to the church in Ohio drew these. Not the kids that went on the trip, but other kids. So they had a part in this because they drew all these on the big canvases. They drew all of them for us. So there really is so many different pieces to this trip. There's the families that stay behind. There's like my kids, Amelia and Katie, we FaceTimed a couple times, and so their support, your guys' support listening to us right now, your guys' support praying for us, those of you who ate the potatoes, whether you loved them or not, but I just want you guys to know there are so many different pieces of these trips. It's not just the people that are there in the moment. There's like Sydney said, 4 of us got sick on different days, so it wasn't until I think the very last day that all of us were actually at the VBS, because different ones of us had to stay at the hotel. But even in staying at the hotel, people worked on getting prepped for the next day. They worked on stuff and things. So it's all inclusive, and it takes all of the pieces to make these things work. Okay, so I'm doing the presentation different because I don't want it to get boring and, do it the same every time. So the way I'm doing it this time is I saw the Bible lived out in El Salvador. So that's what I'm going to talk to you guys about. I'm going to tell you Bible verses and show you pictures, and that's what I got out of the trip is I literally saw the Bible being lived out. So, first slide. Okay, 1 Peter 3:15. I read this one earlier. But sanctify the Lord God in your hearts, and be ready always to give an answer to every man that asketh you a reason of the hope that is in you with meekness and fear. So this is, Brother Julio is the one you can see, and then past him you can only see like a little sliver of him, but that's one of the other young people that went. His name's Caleb. And Brother Julio wanted every day at VBS, at the beginning of VBS and at the end of VBS, to have one of us give a testimony, because he wanted the people there to hear other people's stories of salvation, to realize it's no different wherever it is. That was something different. I thought it was awesome, and boy, did people have to be ready to give their testimony. So that is Caleb giving his, and then the next slide. That's Gloria giving her testimony, and then the girl next to her in the green shirt, that's Renee. She's a Spanish teacher from Ohio, so she was translating for Gloria, giving her testimony one of the days. The next. This is us going out, passing out flyers, and then I think there's one more. Yeah, so these are the pictures that match the devotional I gave, and how I saw the Bible lived out, as people were ready to give an answer no matter the situation. All right, next one. All right, Luke 5. 17 through 20. And it came to pass on a certain day, as he was teaching, that there were Pharisees and doctors of the law sitting by, which were come out of every town of Galilee and Judea and Jerusalem, and the power of the Lord was present to heal them. And behold, men brought in a bed a man which was taken with a palsy, and they sought means to bring him in, and to lay him before him. And when they could not find by what way they might bring him in, because of the multitude, they went upon the housetop and let him down through the tilting with his couch into the midst before Jesus. And when he saw their faith, he said unto him, Man, thy sins are forgiven thee. All right, so one thing that was pointed out while we were there is this correlation to these friends brought their friend that was in need to the Lord. And I put a bunch of different pictures of people in wheelchairs. So you can see on this side, there's the two people in the wheelchairs. On this side, there's Brother Freddie up at the front. He's a pastor in a wheelchair. There's also the lady sitting next to the bleachers in a wheelchair. Go to the next one. Then you can see the class on this side with a bunch of people in wheelchairs. You can see on this side one of the preachers. He has to use a cane to walk. I think there's one more slide. More wheelchairs. Okay, this is not paved streets of Concord, California. This is rugged terrain, and it took many people to help lift these wheelchairs to get them into where we were, because there were stairs going into it and stuff. And so somebody had just pointed out that it's the friends were bringing their friend or their family member to hear about God, just like these friends brought their friend before Jesus through the roof, whatever it took. These people, same thing. They were bringing these people whatever it took, because this is the healing that they needed. Not physical healing, but being able to hear the word of God. All right, next one. Okay, Matthew 19:14. But Jesus said, Suffer little children and forbid them not to come unto me, for of such is the kingdom of heaven. Okay, any of the other Vacation Bible School MAC trips I've gone on, the little guys just stay with the mom. The mom will often come to the little kid class, but it's not really for little kids. It's for 3, 4, 5-year-olds. But the moms will come with the babies and they'll sit in those classes. So Brother Julio wanted it different this time, though. He wanted the youngest class was going to be 4 to 6-year-olds, and so we talked. Okay, but what about all the little kids that come, with their moms? What do we do with them? And so we said, you know what, we could have some of our team watch those little kids. That way the parents can go to their classes, be with their other children. And so that's what we did this time. And so it just reminded me of this verse in the Bible that let the little kids come. They might be crazy. They might scream a lot. They might push people over, rip my glasses off my face, but it's okay. And so this was kind of our nursery, I guess you would call it. I was the one who would assign where everybody was working each day. I never made people do this 2 days in a row, because it was 3 hours of watching, 1, 2, 3-year-olds, a lot of them, and not necessarily, they don't understand what you're saying, etc. I think there's one more slide of this. Oh, there's 2 more. So that's Genowick in the little nursery section at the one church, and then is there one more? No? Oh, no. Okay, so.
This was at the first place, and so the kids weren't boxed in quite as well. We did the best we could, and there was a bunch of, what did Sydney say? One time we had 20 in there or something? On the last day. And so every now and then I would go over there, and there'd be one little kid running out, man. He'd escaped, and he'd be running for freedom. And so somebody would chase him, pick him up, put him back.
So yeah,
we had a lot of runners at that place.
Then the next day we tried to use trash bags to tape, rungs to try to keep them contained, and the kids would end up, scooting through it, and then the adults have to go run and chase them, and then it's a game, so then they're for sure trying to escape. So you saw the one in the building where we had the pieces of wood and everything so that the kids couldn't escape. But it was just, there was a place for them. And it was, just like in the Bible, Jesus said, don't not bring the children. And so this was the Bible lived out. There was a place for kids of all ages, people of all ages. Okay, next one. All right, Matthew 18, 2 through 5. And Jesus called a little child unto him, and set him in the midst of them, and said, Verily I say unto you, except ye be converted, and become as little children, ye shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven. Whosoever therefore shall humble himself as this little child, the same is greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And whoso shall receive one such little child in my name receiveth me. This is also the first MAC trip I've been on that the adults had their own class. Okay, most of the other times they're just kind of mingling around with the kids. The adults had their own class. It was 17 years and up. I think there was one 17-year-old at the second one that was with all of the adults, but there was so few that one of our team members kind of got to know her and hung out with her. But the adults, we had Bible class for them. We played games with them. They went to the craft station. They went to the memory verse station. And they participated in all of it. And so it just reminded me of this, that they became as little children in order to hear God's word. They weren't above that. They weren't insulted by it, by having to do these crafts. Honestly, they loved the crafts more than the children loved the crafts. They would finish their crafts and they would show us, just with beaming smiles on their faces, to show us, how great they had colored their thing and stuff. There's a few more pictures. Oh, this picture is them working on, we gave them little worksheets, kind of like how we do VBS here, just a little smaller scale, that have, fill in the blanks or look up the Bible verse. And so this is them working on them. And even outside of when they were done with class and they're somewhere else, you'd see them still trying to figure out and fill out their papers. All right, you can go to the next one. This is, Sydney had this picture too. This is them doing their crafts one of the days. They also participated in the piñatas. Why only have piñatas for children? It amazed me. Everybody was the same. There was no we're only doing this for this age group, or we're only doing it for this age group. Everybody got a turn. So we even had piñatas for the adults to do. We had games. They played a lot of ring toss over water bottles. Sydney talked about that. It was fairly cutthroat among the ladies to follow the rules for who could win. And then this is one of my favorite pictures. Okay, so this is one of the ladies who had been coming, and like Sydney said, on the last day, Brother Julio wanted them to all have a certificate with their name. Brother Julio signed it, Pastor Freddie signed it, Brother Gary signed it. So this is an official certificate. They sat at a table and signed every one of these papers. And this lady, her name got called first, and I just happened to be standing next to her. So we're going to call out 260 people's names, and she got called first. And she was just so excited that her name got called first. And so whoever, comes over, brings her certificate, and then she's standing there and she's telling me how, she was first and everything. And it just, like Brother Julio said, he wanted to give them these certificates because he knows that this will matter to them. They're going to go home, they're going to tape it to post it on their wall, they're going to keep it at their house. This is going to be something they have for a long time. And so this woman, when she got hers, and just like a good pride of I was here and learned about God, and I got my certificate first, and it was really neat. I don't know, it hit me really different because I was standing there, and so then she was talking to me about it. And so it's like coming as a little child, being excited for, the certificate of completion for doing Vacation Bible School. All right, next. Okay, then Psalm 100. Make a joyful noise unto the Lord, all ye lands. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come before his presence with singing. Know ye that the Lord, he is God. It is he that hath made us, and not we ourselves. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. Enter into his gates with thanksgiving, and into his courts with praise. Be thankful unto him, and bless his name. For the Lord is good, his mercy is everlasting, and his truth endureth to all generations. This is a picture, he's really tiny, I realize that, but that's Brother Freddie. So he's the pastor out in the first area that we went to where we had tons and tons of people come. he is another one of those that he is on fire for God. He is making a joyful noise to the Lord all the time. So when he goes out, he would lead singing. And man, he is singing. Not only does he have a mic, but he is singing at the top of his lungs into this microphone. And it was really neat. He has a microphone or a megaphone that attaches to his car so that he can drive around in the neighborhood and announce, church or announce VBS. He brought it the day before we were going to start, or the day of, I can't remember. I think it was the day of, the morning of. And so we brought it, and so he made announcements, and so the whole little village can hear, and then he had some of the other kids make an announcement and then translated what they said. And so he makes a joyful noise to the Lord, whether it is singing, whether it is, announcing that we're having church services. So again, that's how I saw the Bible come to life. All right, I don't know how many more I have. Sorry guys, I'm trying to go fast. All right, John 6, 1 through 14. Okay. This is the story of the feeding of the 5,000. Okay, I won't read it, but this is the story of feeding of the 5,000. So, Brother Julio told us, maybe expect 50, 60 kids at the first place, maybe 30 or 40 or people at the next place. So, okay, we'll plan for 80. That way we have plenty. We'll bring 80 worksheets printed out. We'll bring enough school supplies for that kind of stuff, crafts. So we get there, and on the first day we have 183, 189 people, something like that. And so, Oh, you're laughing. Okay, so anyways, these people, they're just coming and coming and coming, right? And they don't come on time. So, like, when it's gonna start, it's like, oh, we got plenty of stuff. No, for like the next hour, people are coming and coming. And so, okay, what do? You have all these people that have come to partake in this. Well, we only have supplies for 80 people. So do we just cut off the rest? Do we just let the little boy eat his lunch and everybody else goes hungry? No, we take what we have, and the Lord multiplies it, not legitimately, not like we had 10 pieces of paper and all of a sudden there's 40 pieces of paper there. That's not what I'm saying. But he allowed us to provide for all of the people. We just had people share worksheets. We were able to take different supplies we had to make more memory verse activities. So not only did we have team members working with the people, we had team members off to the side, like quickly, preparing stuff for the next group that was going to come through the memory verse activity so that they had something to do. And you can see tons of people. You can go through the next ones.
Yeah, that's when you found out why you had 20 people.
Exactly. So I will admit, before we left, when we had 20 people on the team, I'm like, what are we going to have all these people do? Like, people are going to be bored because there is not going to be enough stuff for 20 people to do. Now, that was the fleshly side of it. Now, I know the Lord puts the teams together, so it's like, okay, I don't know what they're going to do, but God will have something for them to do because in my mind, they're going to have nothing to do. Well, everybody always had more than enough to do. We ran out of room at the tables, so we just lined the kids up on the ground, put the crayons in front of them so that they could work on the crafts. One of the ladies, Genowick, that came, because I was telling her we got to come up with something, and she's like, I love this. This is what I thrive on, having to come up with something at the last minute with limited supplies. I was like, well, that is why God put you on this team. You have 20 minutes to figure out an activity to do with these 60 kids that will be here, And so it was the perfect people on the team. It was the perfect amount of people. Some of the kids, there was quite a few like Sydney age kids, and some of them were not super outgoing. So it was like, that's okay, we need you to cut 120 snakes out of paper plates right now, go. And so it worked for them because they could just sit there and cut and cut and cut and cut, and then we could use them as that's what they're making. Is for Moses, it was the magicians with the snake and the rod, and so you could hold them up and then the snake was there. So that was the craft they were making that day. But I saw that lived out. Jesus feeding the 5,000. I saw him work with what minimal things we had, and he made it go all the way and again, we brought school supplies for roughly 120 people for both combined, and we were able to make do and switch things around and give everybody something as they left. Okay. Is there more? Oh, this was the last one. Okay, this was verse about how, one is the hand, one is the this, one is the that, all are different parts of the same body. And so that was my little spiel at the beginning, that everybody has a different part in these trips. There is no bigger part or lesser part. It's all parts need to be there, because if all parts aren't there, then it doesn't work the same way. And so God uses you guys here, people in other churches, sending Church of Brother Julio, who goes down there, and just the different ways. So that was my takeaway from the trip. I know somebody had asked me, well, how did it touch you? Well, that was my takeaways. I literally got to see the Bible lived out. And there's so many more that I could have put and have pictures for that tied to different Bible verses, but obviously at some point I had to cut it off. So these are the ones that I picked to share with you guys.
Thank you, Sydney. Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, it was a different trip. It's funny how many trips I've been on, and yet every one is a little different. And different things happen. And we had a couple things happen on this trip that I have never had happen before. And one is when we were in a bus crash. Our bus driver took us to, we were done with the day, and we were going to the mall to get food, because that was the easiest. Go to a food court, give everybody $20 and be back in an hour. And so as we're driving to the mall, it's a very modern mall like we have here. What, I'm not on? No, I don't like this thing.
Turn your mic on.
And so we're going there, and the road goes into the mall and then goes down under one of the walkways, right? And so we start to go down under, and our bus is taller than the down under. And there's people on the top screaming and yelling for him to stop, and he never saw them, man. We hit that thing doing probably about 20 miles an hour, and we stopped instantly. And Joe, Big Joe, he was in the seat right before the doors opened, so he's got the little handrail there. Man, he went right over, he flipped right over that handrail. Nobody was hurt, but we'd never done that before.
The hand sanitizer off the bus.
Oh yeah, there was a hand sanitizer. He obliterated that thing off of there. I was surprised he didn't bend the bar. But nobody was hurt. I don't know, the back I guess was okay. I just heard some screaming. What?
Turn your mic on.
I already did.
No, I turned another mic on for you.
No,
They say it's on.
It's not on. Your pulpit is on. Now turn it on.
Okay.
It's on.
Sound on to me.
It's
I
on.
can hear it. And so we did that. We've never had people sick, as many people as we have on a trip before get sick. I don't know whether it was dehydration, exhaustion, or...
No, I'm pretty sure I had a friend.
You had a friend, yeah. Sarah was the sickest, probably. Joe got sick one day, but I know he overate. Part of the problem on these trips is you don't eat a lot at first, and then your system starts getting used to it and you eat more. Well, Joe ate more. He ate a lot more. And that's why he got sick. I'm pretty sure that's why he got sick. So it was a good trip. There was a lot that happened on that trip, a lot of firsts, like Sarah said, a lot of things that we didn't expect to happen. We had to make copies one day. I made 480 copies, and it was $14.50. So always make copies there. It's just cheap. Yeah.
I was going to say one thing I forgot. I thought it was neat how, because VBS started at 2, when we went to the Walmart in the morning and we just got like fruit and danishes, and that's what we did for lunches those days. We just had to make do, and so it's like, hey, okay, we'll go buy some fruit and danishes in the morning, and that's what we eat for lunch right before.
Yeah. We've never done that before. Julio had a plan to take us somewhere for lunch, but there was no way. We didn't have time for that. Especially out in the country, the closest lunch place was 20 minutes away. And so there's no way we were doing that. And so it was a big stark difference. The first one was out in the country, and I think that's part why we had so many kids. The second one was in town. In town was a lot more fluent. Even the church members are a lot more fluent there. And it's stuck in right next to this big body shop, and on the other side is some other commercial. And so you have to walk a ways to get to any residential area in that town. So that's why I think we had less on that day. Yeah, Ms. Sarah.
Sorry, can I say one more thing? Like the feeding of the 5,000 with the food aspect, though, so they paid to have snacks brought in, but obviously they were not counting on that many people either. And so they had the snacks that we give out to the kids at the end, and then we would end up, okay, let's run to the bus. Let's see what snacks we have on the bus, and we'd bring it out, and then we would end up having enough snacks for everybody to take something with them.
Yeah. We had enough. I mean, the only mistake I think that was made, or the only hard thing that was made, was, and it was okay, but when Brother Julio gave out the snack, when you have 160 to 260 people there, you can't tell them all come down here and line up. And he did that. And so we have 160 people just boom, right there in the middle. It worked. It worked. But we talked to him and said, there's a better way to do this, bro. We can do it a little easier. So for just a few minutes this afternoon, Job 23, 1 to 7. I'm going to read. You got those verses, Brent? Yeah. It says, that Job answered and said, and this is answering one of the friends of his, Eliphaz actually is who he's answering, and Job answered and said, today also my complaint is bitter. My hand is heavy on account of my groaning. Oh, that I knew where I might find him, that I might come even to his seat. I would lay my case before him and fill my mouth with arguments. I would know what he would answer me and understand what he would say to me. Would he contend with me in the greatness of his power? No. He would pay attention to me. There an upright man could argue with him, and I would be acquitted forever by my judge. So Job is suffering greatly. If you study Job at all, you'll find out that he probably suffered more than anybody in history has ever suffered for the way he suffered and what he suffered. And you got to understand another thing about that time of day. The mindset was the wicked suffered and the righteous did not suffer. The righteous were blessed and the wicked suffered. And that's part of the argument between Job and his friends, is because they were totally in the mindset, and they argued simply that Job was doing wrong because he was suffering because he must have done wicked, because the righteous didn't suffer. It just didn't happen. And Job, although Job was arguing the other aspect, that no, that's not true. We've all seen that righteous people have suffered before in our lives, and we've all seen that wicked people have prospered. And so Job and his friends are going back and forth, if you want to call them his friends. But Job is asking for his day in court, basically. He's saying, you know what, if I could just have my day in court with the Lord would vindicate me of all of this stuff. And he would, he would stand up for me. And the Lord would say, no, Job, you're right in all that you're doing. And on one point, that's true, but then we see in chapter 38, and the Lord answers Job. And I don't think it went exactly like Job had planned it to go. In Job 38, 1 through 4, it says, then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, who is this that darkeneth counsel by words without knowledge? Dress for action like a man. In other words, gird up your loins. I will question you, and you make it known to me. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. So Job desires his day in court. He says, I want my day in court. I want to stand before the Lord because I want to, that's what he's talking about here. He says in the 23, 1 to 7, he says, God's going to listen to me. He's going to listen to me. He's not going to shut me down with his great power. An upright man is going to be able to argue with him and get acquitted by the Lord. And so this is what Job's thinking. And so God answers him. And he says, who is this that darkeneth counsel by words without knowledge? He comes up to Job and he just kind of goes, and who are you? Right? It's like you all seen The Wizard of Oz, right? The wizard's behind the curtain there. And they come up and he's the great and powerful Oz. Well, this is the great and powerful God. And so he challenges Job, and in doing so, God is taking away Job's self-righteousness. And God, in essence, is confirming his proper relationship, the relationship that we should have with God, and that is the fact that God is God, and we are who we are. We are not. And God is God, and Job is Job. And many people in this world, including Christians, do not have a right and proper perspective of who God is. But you look in the Bible, and everyone that met God, they fell on their face. And I got a feeling the day that we stand before the Lord, we're not going to be standing there and just making small talk with God. Because He is God and we are not. And in Job 40, it continues on, and Job answers, and Job has something that's very interesting what he says. He says, "Behold, I am of small account." He says, "I am completely worthless. What shall I answer you?" He stands before the Lord, and the Lord's there. He gets his day in court, and Job goes, "You know what? I am worthless. What can I say to answer you? I have laid my hand on my mouth." He says, "I have spoken once." He goes, "And I will not answer twice, but I will proceed no further." In other words, I'm not going to say anything else. I understand the position here that I am. And he understands the position in the present, and he deems himself unworthy. And he says, "I am of small account." And that's the right attitude that we should have with God. We need to understand who God is and who we are, or who we aren't, if you want to put it that way. And you see that in different places in the Bible when people stood before God. They realized who they were and who God wasn't. But the interesting thing is, in all that, and Job says, "I am of small account, I am completely unworthy," Jesus reveals God's great love to us, of small account. The Lord loved us so much that what did He do? He sent His only begotten Son, right? He sent His Son to die for those of us who are of small account. He sent His Son to die for us so that we that are unworthy become very worthy. And we become worthy of the Lord, and it doesn't matter that we are of small account. We have a God who reaches down to give us significant identity in Christ. We have an identity in Christ, and we saw that on the trip. The one gal, Sydney mentioned, she was hitting the piñata. Julio sat with her, and she just brought her grandchild there because her grandchild wanted to come. You got to be careful what you do because you might get saved. And she shows up, and Julio leads her to the Lord. And you know what? You could see the change in her. And and so we are all of small account. In John 1:12 it says, "But as many as receive Him, to them He gave the right to become children of God, to those who believe in His name." Romans 8:16 and 17 says, "The Spirit Himself bears witness with our spirit that we are children of God. And if children, then heirs, heirs of God and fellow heirs with Christ, provided we suffer with Him in order that we may also be glorified with Him." That word joint heir, basically a joint heir is a person who has the same rights as the Son does. That we become joint heirs with Christ. Now, it's not something that you get saved and then you don't do anything with your life. You live out your life in the world like you always want to. This is talking about, it says that provided we suffer with Him, provided we stay in and we stay under, provided we are willing to follow and obey the Lord, then we become joint heirs. And when you accept Jesus Christ, you join the family of God. What better family is it than that? Some of us had good families. Some of us had crazy families. Some of us had bad families. But there's no better family than the family of God. And so we of little account become heirs with Christ. And yes, it is as Job. We are of little account. We are worthless. It's just like he said. But we are not worthy of what God has to offer. But you know what? He offers it anyway. The Lord came down. He had pity on us. He loved us. He didn't come down because He had pity on us. He came down because He loves us. He loves you and He loves me. And He sent His Son to die for you. So we may be worthless, but our soul is precious. It's worth His Son. So in God's eyes, our soul is so important that He gave us the most precious gift that He ever could. Let's never forget that aspect. Any thoughts this afternoon? Any questions about the trip? Anybody else want to go next time? We're going to South Sudan in about a month. Still have room. You're going to love it.
Majority of the kids, majority of the families that went in different churches, was there any language barriers that you encountered?
There's always the language. One of the gals, Renee, Spain. She's a Spanish teacher, so she did a lot of interpreting for us. They had a dozen people who could speak both English and Spanish. The kids don't care. Little kids don't care if you speak English, Spanish, Russian. They don't care. They're going to come up and talk to you anyway. The adults do the same thing. With the decorator, and Sarah's right. I mean, when they would finish their craft, the one who's holding the certificate, if you notice, she had her craft too. She's holding her craft. They'll come up and show it to you, and they'll talk to you. And they talk to you, and they tell you all about it. And you smile and nod, man, it's all good. So yeah, I don't understand what they're saying for the most part. A lot of times I will tell them, maybe I shouldn't, I'll tell the kids, I will talk to them, and they'll come up and talk to me, and I'll go, yeah, man, but you know what? After we're done, we'll go out and get a milkshake, okay? Yeah, they're all for that. They can't understand me either. So.
Technology has helped a lot with the Google Translate, so a lot of the people from Ohio would use that. And you would see them with a group of kids or adults, and they're just handing the phone back and forth talking, so that really, I think, has opened a lot of doors for a connection between the team members and the people there when there is that language barrier. Yeah, we use it like when Julio's up there speaking to the people, we put it on the setting where it translates as he talks. And so most of the time it translates pretty good. Sometimes it's kind of weird, but most of the time it gets it. But if we want to talk to him, yes, we use it. Joe, actually, when we went out door knocking, he actually recorded what he wanted to say on it. And so he would go up, he'd knock on the door, and then he'd go like this. And he would he'd click play. And so it would invite him to VBS and stuff. So, yeah.
The enthusiasm and your facial expression and your mannerism shows love and shows exactly what you're doing. The reason why I asked about the translation, was for that. Just to see if you had a little extra connection when you answered my question.
Yeah.
The woman that was saved, the older woman, she sat and talked to me for a long time. And she's just going in Spanish. And I can understand a word here or there, but the facial expressions. Right. And I could get with the word and then see her welling up with tears. And so I could express, compassion, match her facial expressions. And, even though I didn't understand 100% of what she was saying, but it's it felt like there was still the ability to have that connection, even though I didn't understand everything that, she was saying.
I mean, you mentioned it the other night, mirroring. If you mirror somebody like that, then they Bob.
Well, I appreciate what this meeting was about, but I don't know if you or Sarah can speak Spanish. Could you elaborate on that a little bit? Did you have to speak in Spanish? Did you get the translator to do everything?
No, we understand a little bit. Sydney has gotten pretty decent at it. I made Sydney go out and do the door knocking on her own, not by herself, but I made her go up to the door and invite them in Spanish, and she did a good job. She actually helped us in a restaurant one time, although they still ordered the wrong stuff. But anyway, no, we don't speak Spanish, but we have our phones are able to translate. They can speak Spanish, and it comes up English on our phones. We speak English, and it comes up Spanish on our phones.
Oh, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
I
so
didn't know that's the way it operated.
yeah, a few years ago that wasn't available, but now it is, and it's just so much easier.
And they're all the languages.
Yes, it has a lot of languages on there, for sure.
Just to tie that into what we were talking about earlier, the Mongolian folks that are supposedly coming over. I don't know that language, but it's just the mannerism and how we act.
Yeah.
It's going to be important.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason why I asked that question.
Yeah, and I'm going to guess it's going to be on our phones too, if we have to talk to them. So technology has come such a long way in just a short amount of time. In that, years ago, I used to carry a stick, a translated stick, but if you didn't have Wi-Fi, it didn't work very well, and it was more frustration than it was worth. Our phones are amazing. So, good questions. All right, anything else? All right, we have two committees today, I think. Lighthouse and Hot Rods, car show. I think, right?
I don't know if do we have someone to lead the lighthouse?
Yeah, the problem is Jessica isn't here. So we may not have Lighthouse unless you guys. Okay. Pam and the tall lady, what's Christy? It's gonna do it. Sorry.
Yeah, we need to have something because if the Mongolian folks come next week, we're gonna have to be prepared for the kids.
Yeah, we want to be prepared if they all show up. And so, okay, so then we'll do the lighthouse over here and the car show right here. So, ready? Go.